All right, Jonathan, do you want to tell us a bit about yourself and how you got to where you are today and what you're up to?
Sure, it'd be my pleasure. So I started in this amazing industry between my senior year of high school and freshman year of college. My best friend got a new girlfriend. Well, what does that have to do with anything? Well, it ended up he wanted weekends off. My family owned a roofing company, and I was in line to be the heir apparent for the roofing company with one small problem. I'm afraid of heights. So
Uh,
a roofer that's afraid of heights does not have a long and prosperous career in roofing. So my best friend introduced me to the general manager of a Holiday Inn hotel, asked me to take his spot as the weekend bellman. And as they say, the rest is history. I fell in love with the industry. I loved being a bellman. It was one of the best jobs in the world, being able to meet and greet guests, to assist them, and also to be a quasi concierge along the way. And I was fortunate enough to have an opportunity to have many people that invested in me over my career, allowing me to grow through the rooms department, into sales, marketing, through the management arm, oversaw multiple hotels, and then eventually ended up as the CEO of a hotel group in Madison, Wisconsin. Had a pleasure to work with that group for 24 years and
wow.
successfully transitioned into a role of an early retirement. It's a family business and a successful succession plan. So I found
Yep.
myself at a young enough age where I still had more in the tank and wanted to do something positive in our industry, and had the opportunity to join Maine Course Hospitality Group about 6 months ago, and have been with them here in Freeport, Maine, and excited about the future in New England.
That's awesome. And I mean, like, it's still a huge role to take on because also you see, like you were saying to me just before, like you have 25 locations in two states that are not necessarily connected to each other.
It's exactly right. You know, we have multiple coverages. We look at throughout New England and then down to Florida. We do have a stop halfway down, though, in North Carolina. So we just acquired an asset there. So it makes the journey a little bit easier. And hey, if our vision comes to life, we'll just hit every state along the Atlantic seaboard. And eventually it's a piece of cake, Maine to Florida and everything in between.
That's awesome. And so, like when you think about 2024, then I mean, it's funny because I feel like this question gets more and more redundant because we're at the 9th of February now. But when I think of like the big year ahead, so to speak, like what are sort of like the big challenges or sort of challenges or opportunities that you think you guys face or that the hotel industry kind of faces over the next, say, 11 months?
Well, I think first and foremost, there's economic uncertainty. There's been lots and lots of talk the last couple of years about a potential recession. Yet we've been able to bob and weave our way through. The Fed's been keeping a finger on the pulse and been able to sort of dodge that bullet. But depending on who you read and who you believe, certain pundits believe that maybe 2024, towards the back end or first quarter of 2025, may be when that other shoe drops. Of course, it's an
Yep.
election year as well, and we all know what that means in terms of the debate and the discussion going around. So I personally don't see a recession in 2024. I think it's really more about understanding the geopolitical world we live in and how that could potentially impact travel to the U.S. And then once that traveler is here, then what does that mean for them? I think the summer will be a good predictive index for us in terms of really what travel looks like. Is it just noise at this point in time and people go on with their lives? Or is there really some concern that may hit them in the pocketbook and either shrink the duration of the trip or potentially look at a drive to destination versus a fly to, etc.?
Oh wow! Okay, that's the most cogent response I think I've ever received on that topic by far. I swear to God, yeah, that's very interesting. You say like for summer. So like when you think about summer, then you guys are already ramping for summer right now. Then you're like getting primed for it. In terms of like the challenges getting ready for summer. Then one of the things I hear from every single guest I have or on the podcast is like people and inflation are like the two kind of key things that are like everyone's kind of like scurrying around trying to solve for. Oh, like would those be your two, or would they be alternatives as well?
Well, the honest answer is if you would have asked me 90 days ago, it would have been labor, labor, and labor. But we've been fortunate in terms of having access to H-2B and J-1 workers. that are available to us that are willing to come over to the U.S. and work with us for the summer. And
I
that
was
is
a J1.
a godsend, because otherwise, the workforce in America is challenging as it relates to just finding people that want to do the work that we have available in the hospitality industry, which
Yep.
is physical labor, it is manual, and really it's something that's challenging, and it continues to be difficult to attract and to retain labor. The other piece that you referenced, is certainly just inflation and the impact it has on wages. So
Yep.
as we look at wanting to pay a fair and competitive wage to our workforce, that also puts pressure on the margins, which means we have to be able to grow our rate in order to cover those costs. And that's where the pressure point may eventually surface as guests ultimately decide what they choose to pay. And if they can't find a rate they're happy enough with one hotel, they're going to continue to seek until they find one they can accommodate them at their price point.
Yeah, that's interesting. I think, there's obviously so much to unpack there. I think, with the J1 worker thing, as a person who had a J1, that was my very first American visa.
Yes.
Yeah, everyone, it's like the rite of passage basically for so many people to get summer work. But I know it's obviously got a lot harder now because they have to get the job much earlier. I think they can't just show up anymore like we used to.
Right.
It's just like, hey, hire me, Ben and Jerry's. I remember those days. But it's interesting in the sense that, you're saying but the American worker, when you're trying to frame it in such a way, it's it is hard work. Is the job in hospitality less attractive today, or are there more options, or what do you think is kind of making it hard to hire people natively, so to speak?
Well, I think there's several prongs to that, but certainly one is there is a physicality that comes with being a room attendant and cleaning a guest room. Early in my career, I remember interviewing associates or prospective associates that were interested in a job with housekeeping because they clean their house every week. So this is no problem. Then they got into cleaning a guest room to the standards to which we expect. And it was, oh my gosh, this is completely different than what I do at home. And I have to do it 16 more times today before I can go home. So I think that's part of it, is just really a level of understanding of the physicality that comes with it. On the flip side, our industry is evolving and technology is becoming more and more of a factor. So as we look at other positions within the hotel, leveraging that technology, being able to utilize that to help to create a better guest experience, a more seamless experience, that's certainly out there. But there are certain positions that just by the nature of them, that omelet's not going to make itself. And so you still have to physically assemble the ingredients and prepare it to get it just the way you like it for your breakfast. So I think it's that level of personal touch, that experiential nature to which hospitality brings to the table, I think does create some opportunities for us in terms of labor and some challenges that come with it. But, again, I'm pleased to report that, we've been successful in attracting and retaining a great core workforce. We've been able to utilize, the H-2B and J-1 program to help us in our peak demand in New England in the summer months. And that's certainly, we've been able to put those pieces together for the last several years.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. And it is something that I kind of, I hear all the time basically, which is I'm kind of part therapist at this stage, Jonathan, where where I hear the market for labor is just so difficult. It's hard. There are bodies there, and finding the good warm bodies, so to speak, is another sort of layer to really dig into. And then you want to think about keeping the staff as well. To turn around and go and acquire more is just such an expensive endeavor. I think a lot about hotels in particular, because there are unique roles, like you just said, to be a room attendant. What's the phrase you use? Would you call them a room? The person who fixes the bed. The room attendant.
Room attendant. Yep.
Room attendant.
Used to be a housekeeping attendant. Back in the early days, it was a maid. Kind of like a flight attendant versus a stewardess, right? Or a steward.
Totally.
So we've evolved.
I wanted to make sure. I say it in the right way. And this is very you're saying, it's hard. But then you have like the GM also for the hotel. It's a very unique position as well, more so than even say like a restaurant. I think, like finding night GMs. Like every person I've spoken to about hotels, like this is like that's the jewel in the crown almost. Is like finding that person that's actually good enough that you can trust to run the night. Is that like a similar kind of like I don't want to say issue, but challenge I should say rather like to find that kind of person to find the people that you think are like promotable to like upper management, more senior management. Is that hard to find those kind of people?
It can be. I will tell you that I think one point of differentiation, though, is what your culture's like within your property,
Yeah.
within your company. I think that really sets the tone. Over my career, I've realized that, now 40 years in hospitality, the biggest compliment an associate can give me is that they choose to stay. I mean, if
Yeah.
you think about that individual has chosen to invest in our company, to invest in our hotel, to grow their career with us. So we feel like
Yeah.
that's a relationship. So our goal is to bring you in and to help train and teach you the skills that you need to be successful, and then to partner with you along that journey, and ideally to be able to see your career unfold. Right now with Maine Course, we have many of our general managers started in an entry-level position or a mid-management role and have grown their way to becoming a general manager. What's so cool about that is that then they in turn have their eye out, a head on a swivel, if you will, looking for
Yeah.
other associates that are high potential that they can put on that career path and really help to really grow our own talent. So once we bring someone on board, that's really part of our focus, is to promote and to grow from within where we can.
That's awesome. And I guess, considering you started so young in the industry yourself, okay, and you certainly have a joie de vivre, so to speak, like I could feel the energy from you. Like, what are the things, what are the intangibles? I love asking people this question. Like, what do you think are the intangibles? Like, everyone tells me you can teach service, like, you can teach people like the process, but can you teach people hospitality?
Right.
Like that's it.
Right.
What is the genetic makeup of hospitality that you see? What are the key things?
Well, I am sure that you'll get a million different answers than anybody
Yeah,
would
I
have.
love it.
Right, but I love it. I'll tell you what I believe. I believe that I cannot teach an individual how to care. And when I think about the hospitality industry, we are in the service industry, and really bringing to the table the skill set that I care. I care about the guest. I care about my fellow associates. That matters. I can teach you the X's and O's of how to manage a computer system, how to learn the process of cleaning a room or setting up a banquet and doing all the other amazing things we do. But, I can't teach you to care. And so as we interview and as we look for candidates, and we really talk about fit, we want to be the right fit for that prospective team member. And we really want them to be the right fit for us. And so we use some questions along the way through our interviewing and recruiting process to understand where an individual lands as it relates to what they're passionate about, what they enjoy, and would they be a good fit for us and our organization. And then we're going to create a workplace to help unpack that care and the ability to be able to serve and grow along the way. But I can't make you smile, and I can't make you care.
No, that's awesome. And it's funny because like you said, like I get a million different answers for this. I do, but at the same time, they're all kind of the same one. You know what I mean? It's like people who care is like passion.
Yep.
Like can I like your by your actions I can trust you. Like there was somebody said to me that they were like he was like a restaurant owner, and he was like I could walk into a restaurant and I could just feel if the place is on fire or not. It might not look that to the guests at the moment, but I can see it in the way the place is like being run. And I guess like that's sort of like innate genetic disposition towards hospitality. I don't know how else to describe it, because like it's funny, like people I like asking it because it's like, it's so important because it's such an X factor for hospitality. And yet we all have kind of different ways of describing it, and they're the people that we want to hire, and so when you think about like say empowering the GMs that like work for you to like run the hotels, for example, like, in terms of like mission, values, goals, are you like very keen on like really making sure that they like try to identify that in people and like interview for those kinds of things?
Absolutely. And I think it all begins with our purpose. Whatever an organization's purpose is, the reason you exist really sort of sets the tone. What I love about Maine Course Hospitality Group is that our purpose is really three words: positively impacting lives. That's our purpose. And when we do that successfully, newsflash, we make money. We deliver a return on investment to our investors, to our partners, but also we make a difference. And we really want to positively impact the lives of our associates, right? Everybody that's part of that team. We want to positively impact the lives of our guests. It's interesting in our business, you never know why a guest is staying with you. Most recently, we had the two extremes. One was a couple that was just getting married in their early 20s and were so excited to stay with us as part of their wedding event and their new life together. That 2 days later, we had a family that checked in that just lost a grandparent. And so they were there, getting together and grieving together, just two complete opposite ends of the spectrum. But
Yeah.
that's why we exist, to positively impact their lives and make the best of both experiences, whether it's the best day of your life when you got married or one of the toughest days when you've lost a loved one. But we really feel like that our purpose is to make that positive impact. And when we do that, then that creates that kind of experience that brings people back and allows us to feel like we're fulfilling, our role. The third area we positively focus on is impacting our communities in which we live and work, because
Yeah.
we're an employer, so we bring associates on board, but also we have the opportunity to get out and about and make a difference in our community. And we enjoy doing that. And every general manager, we're an entrepreneurial kind of company. So we don't tell you how to define positively impacting lives. We turn
Yeah.
you loose to figure it out. And it's been fun to see how our company unpacks that and how various leaders look to invest their time, their effort, their energy with their associates in really making that purpose come alive in their market, in their hotel.
Well, speaking of making them entrepreneurial, like what's a great example? There's obviously an example that immediately springs to mind.
Oh, sure. If I'm a general manager, a lot of hotel companies have a manual for everything, right? It's,
Yeah.
matter of fact, a hotel company that shall remain nameless once had a manual that was used as a doorstop for most general managers because it was so thick. Never cracked
Yeah.
it, but they had to have it. You look at how we operate today, we provide some guardrails, some guidelines through really our purpose and our values. And then we let our general managers decide what that looks like, feels like, and sounds like at their hotel. So that entrepreneurial nature can be, we have a dual branded hotel in Albany, New York. And the way that the general manager leads her dual branded hotel and the way that she's engaged in the community is unique to Albany. There are opportunities there in that state capital that she and her team choose to take advantage of. Conversely, if you're down in Clearwater Beach, Florida, there's a very different experience there. So our leaders there look to say, okay, how do we want to make a difference? How do we want to create an impact in this vacation
Yeah.
heavy area? And looking at how to give back to the community there. So there isn't a one size fits all. There's not a manual for it. It's really a guideline and a challenge that says, hey, you guys are smart leaders and you're going to figure out how to positively impact lives within your hotel as well as within your community. And we turn them loose and we go from there.
That's awesome. I mean, I think a lot about that, like, because it is a very entrepreneurial job in and of itself, because you want to solve the guest experience at every moment. Like, if a guest asks you a question, like, there's a million different ways you can answer a question, a million ways you can solve a problem for somebody. But to be able to, like, design a process in such a way that, like, yeah, we have guardrails, we have mission values, we have, like, it's light, it's not a tome, or it's not like
Yes.
you know what I mean? It's not like a
Yep.
doorstop, so to speak. That, like, that begets greater entrepreneurialism, because I guess, like, other managers and leaders within the company are going to be inspired by each other in terms of, like, who's taking it up a level, and not, like, not in a bad competitive way, but in a kind of like, I can do that too kind of way. And I guess you said, like, I mean, at the end of the day, it drives bottom line. You know what I mean? And it's like working for you guys. So you're enabling a personality to exist within a broader personality, and you're able to drive results out of it, which is just like a phenomenal sort of achievement that you guys have got over there, you know?
Well, early in my career, I got comfortable with the idea that I was in a for-profit industry. It's okay. We need to make a profit. That's
Yeah.
critically important, or we're not going to be around. So we don't hide that fact. But the reality is, it's really about how you go about generating that
Yeah.
profit. To me, that's what makes the difference. And I think that approach and that philosophy, positively impacting lives, leaning in. I just think even the vernacular that we use, some corporate offices, are really the hub and spoke for the organization. For our company, we think we exist for two reasons: service and support. That's what we do at the corporate office. We're not casting breadcrumbs on minions. I remember one company I worked for early in my career, it was just killing me because it was like, well, them and us. And
Yeah.
I've never seen a cash register at the corporate office. All the money's
Yeah.
made in the field, right? So it was like, wow, you guys are so tough. But the reality is, all the heavy lifting is done out here at this portfolio of hotels and restaurants and event centers. So, let's think about how we partner together and figure out how that works. So I've been fortunate to be able to serve in a role in the last two organizations that I've been part of, to really live that service and support, and really to have a team that gets it on understanding,
Yeah.
hey, the impact is in the field. That's for sure.
Well, I can tell you this, Jonathan. I mean, like, I could imagine any team that you're on, that your enthusiasm would like radiate across the entire room. I mean, I'm smiling here. I'm like, God, I should come work for you, you know?
Listen,
But
I got a
you're
spot
like,
for you. But don't you think part of it's just surrounding yourself with people that love what they do, right? That you talked about passion earlier. I was very fortunate at 18 years of age. I was able to figure out I'm passionate about this industry. And the other part I love about it, and this is absolutely true, I have never had the same day twice. You have,
yeah,
you come in with the greatest plan, and it all goes out the window if there's a guest issue, an associate issue. Oh, hey, pick an example. The fire alarm goes off. A bride hangs her dress from the sprinkler nozzle in the guest room,
yeah.
and the next thing you know, we have two floors shut down, and I ruined her wedding. I hate it when that happens, but you never have the same day twice in this amazing.
Totally. But like that bridal story is kind of like how I always think about what separates great from good in hotels. Like I always think of like, we were talking about GMs and finding night GMs and the pressure the night GM is under.
Right.
If a family shows up at 3 o'clock in the morning and there's a baby crying and they're delayed from their flight coming from like Australia or something, and
Right.
they go like, that GM, that's a make or break moment right there. This hypothetical moment is like, I got to
Yes.
make sure that they're absolutely happy going to bed and like at all costs, because it can erupt. It can be like the most negative experience and then they'll never forget. You know
Right.
what I mean? And like, it's
Yes.
not what you want, and I think about that a lot because it's like, like it's like having the passion. It's like being able to like have sort of the energy for like solving like these kind of amazing problems and identifying the right people to like take these roles and kind of groom them into that sort of position. And I think, Jonathan, like from everything you're telling me, it sounds like you're almost like kind of quasi savant in that, like you definitely have like an eye for talent for sure.
I wish that were true, but I will tell you this: looking for people that figure out how to get to yes makes a difference, right? That
Yeah.
family from Australia that's checking in at 3 a.m. A lot of things are happening in their world, and they've had, we have no idea what the last 24 hours have looked like for them. I kind of have an idea, and it's disastrous. But you show up, I'm tired, I'm hungry. How do I get to yes? How do I get you
Yeah.
to your room as quickly as possible? How do I get you some food if the kids are hungry, and whatever that looks like? That's when you surround yourself with those entrepreneurs, those problem solvers.
Yeah.
They're the ones that make a difference. And the interesting thing is it never shows up in the logbook in the next morning.
Yes.
It wasn't an incident. It wasn't an issue. It was just something that we took care over the usual and customary course of business of checking in some guests at 3 o'clock in the morning, right? Where for others, it's like, oh, this is my hair's on fire. So,
Yeah.
Our business is special. It's unique, I think, in that regard, and it attracts certain types of leaders that want to be part of that process. I also will tell you this: I think right away, I've never met anybody that was undecided about a career in hospitality. You either know I'm in or I'm out, and it usually happens fairly quickly. It
Yeah.
doesn't take years to figure it out.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, man, no, thank you, but no, thank you. This is not for me. Or, oh my gosh, I've died and gone to heaven. Give me more. So
Yeah.
that's the good news about our business. There's
Yeah.
no gray area.
Oh, like mine. So let me tell you, one of the last questions I always ask people, imagine your peers are operators, leaders in hospitality, okay? What advice would you give them as open-ended and as vague as that?
Well, I will tell you that, I've learned and I've been exposed to and had an opportunity to work with some exceptional leaders, some exceptional mentors. And I really think that one thing that differentiates a company and a leader is really the choices that you make regarding your culture. For ours, it's 4 words. It's fun, it's family, it's respect, and it's integrity. Fun, family, respect, integrity. And I think every company has a culture. And whether you acknowledge what it is and you help to shape it and guide it, or it just occurs organically, but the bottom line is it's there. What does it look like, feel like, and sound like around here when nobody's looking? That's your
Yeah.
culture. And so for me, I believe that, in my journey, as I've had the privilege to serve on panels or boards or committees, we talk about, our culture, what we believe in. And I challenge young leaders to think about what do they stand for? What is it that the environment that they want to create in their hotel or within their company that's going to be the differentiator for them? For
Yeah.
us, when we think about how we work, fun, it's organic. It just breaks out. We have a CEO who has an amazing sense of humor, surrounded by other people that love to laugh. So you might imagine I fit in pretty well here. And so we have a
Never would have
great time.
guessed.
We have a great time. And is it 24/7 fun? No, but we find a way to leverage humor to take out the pressure that can come with
Yeah.
what we do. We also believe in family. Family is our immediate family, but it's also the team that we work with. We want to treat one another like family, which means sometimes we get upset with each other. We got to build
Yep.
a bridge and get over it, right? And we need to figure out the other side is that care and the way that we take care of our associates, because we want to treat them like family. We believe in respect, and it's interesting because that word is often used, but it's the way you demonstrate, it's the way you communicate, the way you carry yourself, and it's really the way you treat one another. And because of the sense of humor, fun and respect in our company, we can pick on each other, tease each other, and really always find a way to acknowledge and to embrace and appreciate one another. And then finally, integrity. That one's interesting because I was told that when Enron created the biggest scandal that I can remember in my career in terms of the golden parachutes for the leaders and absolutely destroying the workforce on their collapse. In the lobby, chiseled in stone, were their core values for Enron. One of them was integrity. And I look at
Yeah.
that, and that really sort of reminds me that even if it's chiseled in stone, it has to be bigger than that, and it has to be lived. And so for our company, we challenge ourselves to make sure that every decision that we make is framed around integrity. We want to do the right thing because it's the right thing. And so if
Yeah.
we lead that way, we expect that from our leaders, then that creates a workplace where people choose to stay. So to answer your question, my advice would be to really come back and understand, what do you stand for? What do you believe in? And then how do you make that part of your social norm within your organization that creates that point of differentiation for you, for your team, for your company?
Well, that was awesome. This is amazing. I mean, man, you're so articulate. It's unbelievable. I mean, I think it's interesting. You're the first person I think to quote Enron. I've had a lot of companies quoted, but I'm glad that today is the first time we've had an Enron, because I mean, that's a whole other rabbit hole. But I think it
Right.
perfectly encapsulates what you're saying in terms of, you can say you can walk the walk, but you talk the talk, but can you walk the walk? And I mean, obviously, those guys were, I mean, it was absolutely ludicrous whole thing that happened there. And so, like, I think, it's interesting. I mean, obviously, I usually end with this, so I don't normally give my opinion your take, but I do think it's interesting in the sense that like you see that a lot, that like culture is very easy to kind of manipulate with words. It's like and not put it
Sure.
into actions as much. And I think really like leaning into like use your phrase leaning in into like the actual phrase and putting like actual work questions, work programs, work projects, and tying them under the context of like the culture and norms, values that you have really can help set apart like what is your culture and clearly that it's designed that way and clearly like it's working for you. I think I think it's a very unique and special sort of organization that you've got around yourself now, Jonathan. Already in your how many months was it? 7 months you say you're in now?
Yeah, a little over 6 months, and
already having impact.
well, the other piece I will just make sure that we reiterate. It's also about how you choose to make decisions, right?
Yeah.
You can't have these core values or these things you supposedly believe in, but then you don't leverage them as part of the decision-making process.
Exactly.
And so, really it's about how you put them to work on a day-to-day basis. I mentioned guardrails earlier. That's important. We don't want to dictate every behavior. We can't. We have 25 hotels in different locations. So we're not going to be there, and there's no manual that's going to cover it. We believe you hire the right people, you give them the tools and the resources they need to be successful, you give them those guardrails, and then you turn them loose and you support them from a service and support standpoint at the corporate office. And for us, that's the secret sauce that makes Maine Course work.
That's awesome. Well, Jonathan, it's been nice having you on the podcast. I mean, I've loved every second.
As have I, and thank you so much for the invitation, and I wish you nothing but the best.